on pelvic tilts today. So thinking about isolating our pelvis and taking that very familiar tuck under if you have been doing class with me recently. So we're going to start with our feet completely together, standing up as tall as possible, lifting the crown of the head up towards the ceiling, sending the tailbone down, and thinking about taking a midline squeeze. So squeezing the legs together from the outside in. Don't worry if you can't completely get your feet together, that's absolutely fine, just do what you can. But have this emphasis of squeezing the legs in towards the centre. So it's like everything is coming in from the sides and then drawing and lifting up out of the floor. Think about the weight, just have a rock forwards and backwards, forwards on the balls of the foot, back onto the heel. Just find that centre point. Imagine your insteps, the middle of your feet are the centre point. And then lifting up nice and tall. Let's have a think about and take some nice deep breaths. In through the nose, out through the mouth. Thinking about weight distribution. Observing where the breath is going. Ideally around the rib cage. Imagine you've got a rubber ring, a sort of oval shaped rubber ring, and you want to try and expand your breath for Pilates into that rubber ring all the way round. I can really feel, I really notice it more at the sides of my ribs, but also the front and the back as well. Just observing for yourself, do those shoulders lift up, keep that spine lengthened, and let's add some arms with the breathing and the movement and this movement. So arms are going to go palm down, elbows up as you lift them, and then reverse it, palms up, elbows down. So I call these my sort of wings arms. Imagine you're an angel, of course you all are, and these are your wings, or an eagle. You've got a lovely long wingspan, and it should just make you aware of the muscles around the shoulder blades in the back. Little bit of attention drawn to the shoulder socket itself as you rotate that arm. And next time we take the arms up, let's take the opposite to natural breathing. So breathe in here and then breath out as you take the arms up. Breath in as you lower. Breath out, breath in. As I'm lowering my arms, breathing in, I'm trying to grow taller, and I'm having to really concentrate on taking the breath out as I take those arms up. Breathing in here, breath out, and let's add a pitch forwards onto the balls of the feet. Rise up, try and keep those ankles together, or your legs together, your knees together, whichever part of your legs are together. Breath out, breath in, strong ankles, controlling that lowering if you can. Breath out, remember, breath in and one more, breath out, and breath in, and relax there. So just thinking about that lovely long line of the spine. We're going to look at our feet today, foot fists and hand and fist, thinking about scrunching the toes over. So standing on one leg, doesn't matter which one you stand on, although the standing leg will start to have a little bit of work. Take the other foot and just put your heel in the floor, which helps you to keep your ankle still. And then the movement is to scrunch your toes over. So this is what I'm calling a foot fist. It's like you're scrunching up all the muscles underneath your foot and then lifting the toes and spreading them apart. Scrunching over and lifting and spreading. Scrunching over and lifting and spreading. And it might go a little bit crampy. We're going to roll it out at the when we've finished with this foot. But if you need to roll it out at any stage or do whatever you need to do, if you've got cramp, then please do. Let's add on to that. So I'm going to just be a little bit more aware of how I'm standing. I'm going to lift that leg up. You don't have to. Just going to make it a bit harder. I'm challenging this standing leg a bit more now. I want you still to keep your ankle without moving your ankle. So don't let the ankle join in to this movement. So So just holding the leg up, scrunching the toes, stretching apart, scrunching the toes, stretching apart. And I'm going to add my hands doing the opposite thing, a bit like the breathing we just did. So when I'm scrunching my toes, I'm stretching my fingers and thumbs far apart, and then I'm making a fist when I'm lifting my toes up. It is all going on now, although we're going to add to it in a moment. I have to concentrate, I can't talk as well as this one. Great, and then if you can, keep the scrunch for the foot and circle around at the ankle. And do the opposite with your hands. Stretch your fingers far apart, twiddle them and circle at the wrists. And then changing direction if you can. If that started to cramp up, try and bear with it a little bit. Go with it, we're about to roll it all out. Trying to keep everything else still. So just the foot, that one foot and those hands are going, everything else nice and still. And I'm just going to push that ball of that foot in and roll that around. And that should feel really nice. And standing legs, getting a little bit of work there. Great, let's try the other side. So initially with your heel down, just so that you haven't got to think about that ankle at all, you're not stressing yourself by holding this leg up. You can concentrate 100%, if I just turn my leg out a little bit, on really scrunching those toes over and really lifting and pulling them apart. So one foot might be better at this than the other, generally is what happens. Trying to isolate at the toe joints, as I said, rather than joining in with the ankle and everything else. Let's add the opposite action with our hands. So we're there and there. Stretching fingers and thumbs apart. Trying to, when you lift the toes up, trying to spread those apart as well. It doesn't really happen. Well, my big toe and my little toe on this foot actually do go a little bit apart, but the rest of the toes sort of stay stuck together. That's absolutely fine. Let's lift that up, leg up, get the foot scrunching and circling, and then fingers spreading and circling. Changing direction if you can. So thinking about hips and shoulders being nice and level here, because there's a lot of other stuff going on. Make sure you don't shorten in the waist and change that. Keep that foot scrunched, not so crampy for me on this side. I can feel it just starting to go. And then push the ball of the foot in, roll it around and breathe. So really good to keep your fingers and toes active, mobile, being able to move them as much as possible. It wakes up your whole central nervous system. And with everything, if you don't use it, you will ultimately lose it. So it's good to keep it all active. Great, let's take the feet shoulder width apart. Just inside the shoulders, so not too wide. And let's take the shoulders up towards the ears and draw them down. Up towards the ears, so shoulder shrug, up and down, and then we'll go sideways, take the shoulders only, think about the shoulders only, forwards, centre, back, centre, forwards and back, or you don't really need to worry about the centre part, just go through, be aware of that centre part. And then let's take a big old shoulder circle all the way around and back. Hopefully that will feel quite nice. Great, then let's place the hands on the shoulders and take our elbow circles. So still mobilising the shoulders, but now adding on that rib cage shift. Allow it to go. Allow it to lift, allow it to push back. And then thinking about shifting the rib cage, let's take a stretch forwards with the arms as you push back between your shoulder blades, round in the back. I've softened my knees slightly. I've taken that first of many for this class, pelvic tilts, and then I'm going to turn my palms up, bring my, sort of make a fist in, pin my elbows back, lift my chest a little bit, shifting the rib cage forward. So we're in this position, tucking the pelvis under. So a little bit like your C curve, which is what we're going to try and create later on. But remember, this is about the rib cage. So you could be doing exactly the same thing here. I've just changed, or with your arms extended, as we've done before, butterfly arms. Just change the emphasis with these arms. Breathe out as you push forwards. Breathe in as you pin those elbows back. Breath out, breath in. One more. Breath out, breath in. Great. Finishing off this movement. I'm going to come forwards a little bit. Soft elbows, whole arm circles all the way back. Breathing, if that's too much for you, to stick to the elbow circles. Try and get everything shifting. The whole idea of all of this, what we've done so far, is to get the blood flow to these joints. Move these joints more than you do at any other time. We just don't move enough. Go right to the very end range. And then that should have got, I'm just going to do a couple more, should have got you all nice and warm around the top of the shoulders, the back of the neck. So let's stretch the neck out, and today we're going to add your hand on your head, or holding onto your arm if you would like to. So let's just start by turning the head from side to side, lightly touching fingertips to thighs so that you know that your shoulders are staying still. Breathing, facing forwards, and then taking the ear towards the shoulder, or think about lifting the top ear up towards the ceiling. This isn't a very big movement, and because it's not a very big movement and it's quite tight and a little bit uncomfortable, that's when the shoulders want to join in to make it easier. So you're getting the job done, but we want to isolate a little bit. Hold over to one side. Couple of ways of doing this. You can either place the same side hand on that you're leaning towards on top of your head, and you're just literally placing it there and allowing, it's almost like just the contact really. I'm not pulling on my head at all. I'm just allowing that extra stretch. Another way to do this would be to take hold of the opposite arm, so the one you're leaning away from with that hand, and pull that shoulder down. Or you can place this hand quite heavily on this opposite shoulder. All three will give you the same extra bit of stretch. Maybe just find the one that you prefer. Maybe you don't like that at all and you don't even want to put the hand there. It's absolutely fine. Whatever you've done if you've done something with the hand, take it away first and then come upright. Because it's quite a strong stretch. It's interesting how much difference it makes. Over to the other side. Set yourself up first. So you've got the option of the hand just gently resting on top of the head. And it's almost more the contact than anything else. It wakes your brain up to think, ooh, there's a little bit of extra weight there. Or the hand on the wrist, pulling the arm down, just above the wrist actually, on the sort of fleshy part of your lower arm. Or same effect, hand on the shoulder. This one feels like I want to be a little bit more heavier with my hand on my shoulder, that one. Take the hand away from wherever it was and come up to the top. Great. Let's go to tilt to the side again, go back to the first side, and then just take your chin, so stay on the tilt, take your chin, rotate your head, take your chin towards your shoulder, and then stay on that same angle, lift the chin up towards the opposite corner in the room. So it's like you're drawing a diagonal line from corner to corner. About 4 of those. Finish with looking down at your chin, and I'm going to just change the angle of my head. I'm going to lift my head up. I'm still looking at the chin, but I'm looking down now. So I've lifted it, I was tilted. If I show you there, I was tilted, and then now I'm just looking down. I'm going to take that same hand on top of my head again, and then it gives you a really nice stretch in the opposite part of the back of the neck. Again, taking the hand away before you lift and return. Good, so onto the other side. Tilt first, touching the fingertips of the legs. Stay on the tilt, stay on that angle. Chin towards your shoulder and then up to that top corner. If you think about it, we do so many weird and wonderful things with the position of our head, and we rarely sort of stretch these muscles or just mobilise them a little bit. We're not really stretching as such, just mobilising, working out any sticky bits in those muscles. So staying looking down with that chin, but lift your head up and just straighten up the top of the head, if that makes sense. And now I'm just going to place the hand on top and just gently allow the hand to rest there. Allow the weight of the arm to just register, and you should feel a nice stretch in the opposite. So back here, trying to keep those shoulders still. Take the hand away, lift the head, and we're there. Good. Brilliant. Okay. We have got some side bends. So let's take the feet wide again. I'm reaching up, trying to touch the ceiling. Lifting the rib cage off of the hips, an equal amount of these, and then hold both arms up. Stay looking up, no looking at me. Pitch the weight forward so that you're on the balls of the feet and you can tap your toes. Everything is lifted up. My shoulders are up around my ears. My rib cage is flaring. It's a little bit uncomfortable. Try and keep the top of your head there as you let your arms relax down, and then you bring the head up and over so your eye line is in its regular place. We've created this lovely length in the spine. Let's use that for some side bends. So just gently at first, reaching down one side and then the other. Breathing evenly, quite relaxed breathing. If you want to, bring your hands up, fingertips to your temples, noticing the difference with this extra weight with the arms up here. So rocking from side to side. Well, rocking is not a very good word actually. Not rolling either. Let's pass on that word. Keep your feet even. Let's add on, this is going to be significantly harder again, just notice how it feels. I'm going to clasp my hands, just clasping one hand with the other, take my arms up and just gently at first. Now we're talking a real good side stretch. So you don't need to go as far over to the side. In actual fact, I'm thinking more of lifting and pushing up towards the ceiling on this top side. Really lifting out of the ribs, taking the head with you, an equal amount both sides. Great. Let's hold it over to one side. We're going to bend the knees and roll down in the centre. So bend the knees, roll down, hang there. Let your arms hang, let your head hang, just nod your head, shake your head. Everything is relaxed. Stay there with the legs bent, and then try and straighten the legs as you breathe out and breathe in. Release and soften the knees 2 more times. Breath out, breath in. So stretching those hamstrings. Don't worry if it feels a little bit sore. And then we're going to tuck that pelvis under. This is a really important pelvic tilt. Pushing that pubic bone forwards as you unravel all the way up through the spine. Just watch me a moment. I really want you to think about from here
this pelvic tilt. You send your tailbone down. It's like if you were a dog and you've got a long tail, it's gone right between your legs. Pelvis is completely tucked under. That's my first thing I think about as soon as I start to come up. Tucking under here, strongly pulling the belly button in, and then the pelvis becomes into that neutral position, and then you stack the vertebrae one on top of each other. So let's try that on the other side. Taking the arms up. So just stretching over, holding it there a moment. So we're trying that pelvic tilt when we come up, but this time we're going to bend one leg and then straighten the other. So rolling all the way down in the middle. Hang. I feel like I'm hanging from my waist. Legs are bent, knees are over my toes, arms are relaxed, head's relaxed. And then I'm just going to straighten one leg, keep the other leg bent, and swap sides. And breathe. So your pelvis, your hips will drop from side to side. This is a bit like the seesaw hips. Should feel quite nice. So you're going to get more of a stretch on that straight side, straight leg side, the back and the hamstrings. Great. And then bend both knees. Let's roll up, tuck that pelvis under. Really push the pubic bone forwards, make those arms let those arms just hang. No contact with the legs, you don't need it. All the work happened in your abdominals to support that back on the way up. Great, okay, we have got just loose swimming, finishing off our mobilising. I'm going to step forwards a little bit, otherwise I'm going to hit the wall. So let's just take some backstroke swimming first of all. So nice and relaxed, shoulders opening up, hip joining in with that shoulder, ankle rotating, head facing forwards. So this is our backstroke arms. Let's go front crawl now. Rotating around the spine. Remember that midline squeeze we took at the very first thing we did today? Imagine that's a pole from the ceiling down to the floor. Your spine, your torso is rotating around it. You can't go from side to side, you can't change anything here, just around it. Good, and then we're going to take some loose bow and arrow, I call this. I'm going to turn sideways, bringing the arms forwards. You're sliding this arm along the inside of your other arm. This is you pulling your bow and arrow, pulling the bow back to set the arrow off. I think that's the right way around. His elbow's coming back, and then I'm going to turn and look at it, stretch the arm out behind me so everything is rotated, and then come back round to square. So sliding along, lead with the elbow first, look behind you and extend. Off you go if you're familiar with this movement. If you're still struggling a little bit, you have to open up this shoulder, open up this hip, and let those ankles rotate in order to be able to do this and look behind you. And then you're squaring up. Shoulder, hip, ankle, look behind you and centre. And we're there. One more each side. So this is our rotational warm-up today. Brilliant, good job. Okay, we are already so soon onto the floor. So I'm going to move my monitor down a little bit. So feel free to move your laptop or whatever you're watching on if you need to, so that you can see me, see what's going on. Great, and we've got a wide leg stance to start with. Toes are facing forwards. We're going to take a wide leg roll down. So think about mobilising the spine. Chin goes onto the chest. Arms are relaxed. Don't worry. Knees are soft. I'm rolling all the way down. Head's hanging. Just nod that head. And then I'm going to bend my knees a little bit more, reach my hands forwards. There's no weight change here. I'm going to itsy bitsy spider those fingertips a little bit more, relaxing the chest down, holding that there, lengthening my spine. Make sure your head, your ears are level with your biceps. Relax your head down. Make sure your knees are over your toes, reaching forwards. And just breathe. And then from there, let's walk out. Onto your hands. Bring your shoulders over your hands. Hips are still quite high. I just want you to lower your knees with control. Those toes are curled under. And then lift your knees up. Push the chest back through your arms. Walk your hands back. And then let's take our roll up from here. So tucking under, let those arms hang. Rolling all the way up. Great job, let's go again. Chin onto the chest. Rounding the spine. Let those arms hang. Drop your hips down, maybe a little bit lower this time. I'm just going to stay here a moment actually and just take a slight sway from side to side. Feeling that compression in the hip joint. Then I'm going to take my arms forwards, feeling the extra stretch now in my back, the lengthening in my spine. Maybe carry on going from side to side a little bit, make sure that head is hanging. Then walking out. This time I'm going to bring my feet onto the mat, so they're more shoulder width apart. I'm going to bring my shoulders over my hands, lowering my knees. I just want you to repeat that last bit one more time. So we're going to this time lift the knees off, lift the hips up, try and push the chest back through the arms, bring the shoulders forwards and over, lower the knees, keep those toes curled under. One more, lift the knees up, push the chest back. So downward dog is a very strong stretch on the backs of your legs. Come forwards and over and onto all fours. Well done. Relax those toes. Great. We're going to take a very traditional mobilising exercise called the cat-cow in yoga, where we mobilise the spine. But we're going to try and articulate it in a different order to how you would normally do. So it looks like this: hands underneath your shoulders, knees underneath your hips. Perfect neutral spine to start with. Generally, we take a pelvic tilt, so there's that pelvic tilt again, and we let the head drop down. So this is angry cat, and then we come through a neutral and take the stretch the other way. I've never quite understood why that's the cow. I would always thought the cow was more the neutral position, but anyway. So basically, you're moving both ends at the same time. We're going to try and isolate that. So we're going to start at the pelvis twice and then start at the head twice. With that, but ending up in that same angry cat position. So from here, tucking the pelvis under, drawing your belly button in. As that's happening, I can feel my upper mid back starting to join in, lifting up towards the ceiling. Don't go too crazy with that. We don't need to over exaggerate that position. And then just allow the head, don't allow the head to just completely hang, allow the head to come forwards. So you're imagining a C curve from the top of your head all the way around to your tailbone. And then from there, we're going to reverse it, but from the tailbone again, from the pelvis. So the pelvis is returning to neutral, lower back, middle back. I can feel my chest wall dropping down, and then the last part is to lift my back of my head and neck into position. It's not a very big movement, maybe not as much movement as you would do if you were doing it the regular way. So let's try that again. So tuck the pelvis under. See if you can move each vertebrae sequentially. Systematically rolling up through the spine and then allowing that head to just lower, but maintaining a sort of a connection at the back of the neck here. From there, tuck that pelvis under as strongly as you can. Release, arch the lower back. Everything relaxes down and the head lifts last. Now let's try it starting from the head both times. So letting that head drop down, then lifting, rib cage up but not too much, I can feel it now just in my lower ribs and that lower back, finishing off with as strong a pelvic tilt as I possibly can. Then returning the head to neutral. This makes the rib cage draw down. Chest wall lowers towards the floor. Lower back returns to its natural curve. Pelvis returns. One more of those. Lengthening the back of the neck. Lifting. Rib cage up. It's like a ripple effect going through your body like a wave. Tuck that pelvis under. Belly button is in really nice and tight. And then release the head. Much harder, I think, to start from the head both times and return back to neutral. Well done. Good. Maybe a little twiddle on the wrist, but hopefully not too much, because the next exercise is all about creeping and crawling on the floor. Initially, we're going to start off, so I'm going to come to the back of my mat. We're just going to do crawling. So we're here, opposite hand and leg, hand and knee, moving forwards to the end of my mat, and then reversing to come backwards. Your goal is to try and stay roughly in your square box, as opposed to ending up either here or here with your hands and your knees. Don't get them too far apart. We're also going to go sideways. So turning to face this way, you're going to go knee, hand, knee, hand. You'll find as you go sideways, once you get into it, initially it might not happen, you'll find that you've either got your hands together or your knees together for this to work. Now, for today, for your wrists, for your knees, if this is uncomfortable, that might be as far as you want to go. What I'd like you to try and think about, and maybe practice some other time, is doing exactly the same thing with those knees hovering off the floor. So I'm going to go back even more. So I'm trying to maintain my square box, opposite hand and foot now. This is much stronger. Actually, significantly stronger. Significantly harder to do. Go slowly. Remember to spread fingertips, fingers and thumbs apart. Sorry, I couldn't speak at that point. Same thing when you're going sideways. Knees are off if you can. If you're not doing the knees off, that's too difficult, do another set with those knees down on the floor. Thinking about the coordination, thinking about keeping your spine in its natural curves. Whew. Brilliant, well done. If you joined in with that one, that's a good one to practice. Great. So, coming back to our pelvic tilts. An important part of the class today. So, I'm going to sit upright with the legs bent and feet and knees in line with your hips. And the first thing we're going to do, we're going to create, so this is called a seated C curve. So the thing that creates the C curve is that wonderful pelvic tilt. So it's a real scoop. It's a scoop of the tummy. In fact, if I have my legs out straight, it might be a bit easier to see. So here my pelvis is in neutral. When I take the pelvic tilt, I'm drawing in my belly button so tight towards my spine. I'm tucking that pelvis under, tilting it backwards. It's a posterior pelvic tilt. Everything here is scooped. Because I tilt so much here, it has that knock-on effect of rounding the rest of my spine. So if we're here, so seated right up on your sit bones, and then you take the pelvic tilt, you go as far as you can with that pelvis, and you can feel, if you feel, try and heighten your awareness of your sit bones. You start on your sit bones and then you go past your sit bones so that you're on your sacrum. And then I can rock back a little bit. I've created the curve, it's here now. Crown of the head, round the back to that pubic bone. If you did the rocking abdominals class, you'll really know about trying to create that curve. It's very strong work. Once I'm here, I can just sort of tap my toes. I'm really balanced, it doesn't feel uncomfortable. Then I want you to come forward, so pitch that weight forwards again. Stay in your rounded shape until your shoulders are over your hips, and then sit tall. From here, we're going to take another shape. We're going to lift the chest and look up to the ceiling. I'm trying to keep my pelvis still now at staying in neutral, and I'm trying to create a little R with my upper body. Back through neutral. So neutral spine, the double S shape if you like. Tilt that pelvis. Try not to lose any height. Absolutely don't go back until you can't go any further here. Once that's really tucked under, then you can go back. Find that balance point, tapping the toes. Tummy's scooped. Stay rounded, 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 rounded. Now sit tall. Lengthen through. Be aware of your sit bones. Pointing down in contact with the floor. Go up and over. Folding over that upper back. Lifting the chest. Thinking about your face being parallel to the ceiling. One more of those. We're here. Tuck under. Scoop, 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 scoop. Find that tipping point. So if we were doing something like rolling like a ball, you're already in your position. Already here. Putting the feet down. Pitching that weight forward. Shoulders over the hips. Sit nice and tall. And then try and take that upper chest release, upper back release. So if you've been working on that movement in that thoracic rib cage, that should actually feel quite nice. Good. From here, we're going into seated pyramid stretch. I'm not quite sure why it's called a stretch actually, because it's not a stretch. It's much more of a stamina building exercise. And it's basically where I want you to try and be, and if you can, this is difficult with the legs out straight, but your legs are out straight, you're seated on the floor, your spine is in its natural curves. You're sitting right up on those sit bones again. If you find yourself back here, this isn't good. You need to practice this sitting, being able to sit tall. We're building the stamina in the muscles around the spine, supporting the spine to help us stay nice and upright. So ways to practice. Not on the floor. If you're struggling here, this is the most difficult position. You could sit on a little block, maybe a rolled up towel, a couple of books maybe, just for this specific exercise while you're practicing the stamina building. Preferable to sit on a bench or a hard chair, hard dining room chair, and just practice holding your spine upright, lengthening through the crown of the head. If you can, get a reasonably good neutral spine here, but you need to bend your knees. That's absolutely fine. It's very grippy in your hip flexors. Mine are screaming at me at the moment. I'm sure yours are. We're going to deal with that when we finish this exercise. See if you can just try and release and forget about it a little bit. So pyramid stretch. So straight legs if you can, soft knees if you need to. Just relax the feet as well. Take the hands out to the side, middle finger touching the floor. Just sit tall. And breathe. Try and lift out of those hips so those hip flexors aren't screaming at you too much. Imagine your spine, the muscles in around your spine. It's like a, what do you call it? A wicker. It's like a wicker back chair. And there's all the muscles are crossing over, and it's sort of like a thatched thing. Those are the muscles we're trying to build the stamina. It doesn't look like we're doing anything, but it is really quite strong. So hopefully you've kept nice and lengthened all the way through this. Let's challenge it yourself a little bit more. Take your mind off those hip flexors. Let's take marching feet. Nice straight insteps, no curly toes. If you can see them, I'm not sure if you can see them. What I mean by curly toe is that, a really straight instep. So straight legs if you can. One foot is flexing, one foot is pointing. See if you can isolate, I've forgotten my hands there. See if you can isolate those toes as well. Ooh. Good job. Okay, well done. Oh, just lean lean back and give your legs a bit of a shake. It is quite strong. So next thing we're going to do to have a good little stretch at the front of those hips is a nice straight bridge. So come down onto your back. Find your neutral spine. Find your neutral spine, find your base position. So that means that the feet and knees are in line with the hips, pelvis is in neutral. Just have a little sort of weight check as you go through your body once you lie down into this position. Especially on this class is a little bit slower pace today, but especially when we've been working really hard and doing some really strong stuff, and then you first come down to lie on your back, you'll find you're actually holding quite a lot of tension in quite a few places, especially in this lower back region. So ribs at the back. But let's start with the feet. So feet equally weighted, big toe joint, little toe joint and heel. It's not heavy because you've got no weight through there, but I tend to roll out towards my little toe side, and then that's my knees relax out. So really nice and parallel, knees in line with ankles and hips. Think about the pelvis. Just have a rock from side to side. So someone was saying to me, giving me some feedback about how to find the perfect position, and I do this a lot. Just have a little wiggle about. Check it out. So come out of the position, come in, sort of go to both extremes. Find the neutral position for you. So pelvis, either side of your spine, either side of your pelvis. Is it fairly equally weighted, or are you a little bit twisted? Maybe lift your head up, have a look. Pubic bone, hip bones on the same plane. That's your neutral pelvis. And then the curve in your lower back will be entirely dependent on how the shape of your lower back is. I've got quite a big curve, so when I put my hand underneath my lower back, there's probably a gap about that much, 1.5 inches there. But I'm in neutral. This is my neutral. This is how I know it is. Ribs at the back. They're actually quite low. That's the ones I was thinking about or talking about. When we first lie down, they tend to be a little bit lifted. If they're lifted and not actually touching the mat, definitely the ribs at the front are going to be lifted. So let them relax. Don't force them down. Just try and let them relax. Shoulder blades, equally weighted. Let those shoulder tips open out a little bit more. You might find that one side, your handedness side, I'm right-handed, that right side might be a little bit more lifted, just because it's more muscular generally, because we're stronger on that side and we favour that side all the time. Absolutely natural. Curve in the nape of the neck is there. Base, the bulky part of the back of your head is in contact with the mat. Slightly tucking the chin in and lengthening the back of the neck. Good, so hopefully that whole hip flexor thing has gone away now, but we're in the perfect position to take a straight bridge. As we take a straight bridge, you push down through your feet, all 3 points on the feet, you switch your buttocks on and you lift those hips up as far as you can. Check with your hands. Has this happened? Have you let those ribs lift up? Hopefully not. Your focus is pelvis, pubic bone. Feel like you're opening out this area at the front of your hips where those hip flexors, mine are very tight. I really struggle with this sort of work, but this feels nice to let that open up. And stretching your hip flexors, one of your 10 things to do every day. Push down through the heels, switch the buttocks on. Opening up, make sure you're not too heavy on that head or those shoulders. And dropping back down. One more, staying up at the top. And we've got the dogs. It's all going on today. I've lost my live feed. Now we've got the dogs and the postman. Or a delivery of some sort. Holding that there. Sending the knees away above your ankles. Relaxing, coming all the way back down. Let's add on to that. Let's go straight up to the top. This one, take your arms up and over. Touch the floor if you can, but actually I'd quite like you to leave your arms just hovering off the floor. If I just tip my fingertips, I can touch the floor with my hands. Leave the arms there, and now reverse peel back down through the spine. There's that pelvic tilt again at the end. Reverse peel, release to neutral, come back over, up and over. Yeah, let's do that again. So up to the top, straight bridge, because we don't change anything, there's no articulation. Take the arms up and over. If that's too much for your shoulder, you could have your arms up here, but see if you can just lengthen them away. Now reverse peel down, so articulating the spine like we did on all fours. Try and get every single vertebrae, one after the other, push it into the mat. Pelvic tilt is the last part of it. Come back to neutral and then up and over with those arms. One more of those. Up to the top, switch the buttocks on, take those arms back. Hold the arms there. This should feel like a wonderful stretch and mobilising in the spine. And then coming back to neutral. Good job. Okay. Looking at the pelvic tilt totally on its own now. So from here, I'm just going to take this hand away. I'm in my neutral position. Isolating, pelvic tilt, pushing that waistband into the mat, rolling back to neutral. So pubic bone is really high, tummy is pulled in, and then return. Rolling back. So I feel like when I'm in this position, hold it if you can. I want you to imagine you've got a set of digital scales underneath your lower back, and you're applying an amount of pressure. Make it show a number 10. Could be 10 pounds. I don't know what that actually means, but make it show a number 10. When you release and roll back to neutral, there's no pressure there, so you're back to naught. So apply a number 10 there. Place your hand on your lower abdomen. In fact, just hold it there while you're taking this pelvic tilt. So between your belly button and your pubic bone, as you take this pelvic tilt, this whole area should scoop, but it should also feel quite soft, soft underneath your hand. It's not, so I can do exactly the same thing. It's not that. I don't know that you can see that, but that's me. I'm using completely the wrong muscle. I've still created the pelvic tilt, and I'm pushing my lower back into the mat. But all of this is bunched up. That's me using completely the wrong muscles. That's using your top surface muscles. You want to just scoop. Lift pelvic floor. Use that lower section of your rectus abdominis to pull back, as opposed to everything bunching and pushing up. Really not good technique. Okay, so we're going to go into one of those pelvic tilts. Hold it there. You're going to lift one leg into a knee fold. Into tabletop, sorry. Second leg into tabletop, lower the first leg, lower the second leg, release, back to neutral. Try again. Tuck under with that pelvis, make sure nothing else has changed. Lead with the other leg, tabletop, second leg into tabletop, lower the first leg, lower the second leg, release, back to neutral. So you might have found that really quite difficult. It might be a piece of cake. If it's a piece of cake, perfect. You've got good control. So there's two things. We're looking at the control and being able to switch on the right muscles and take this movement, but also a level of stamina. So you might have found that you tucked under, you lifted the first leg, all relatively easy. The moment that you lifted the second leg, you've gone back to neutral, and then you've lowered the first leg, lowered the second leg, and there's nowhere to go at the end. That's a lack of stamina here. So tucking under, so this is one to practice if you're finding that happened. Lift one leg up, lift the other leg up, but keep there, it's tough. Lower it, that first leg, staying there, lowering the second leg, and then releasing. If you found that was physically impossible, practice this on its own, just tucking under with the pelvis, applying that level 10 into your digital scales, hold it, breathe, count to 10 or something, or 20, 30 seconds, I don't mind, and then release it. make sure that you can build that stamina. Because when we do things like the rocking abdominals, which we did on Tuesday, or single leg stretch where you're hanging onto this knee, I'm going to just show you. So I've tucked under in my pelvis, I've lifted my head and shoulders up, and I'm pulling this knee in. So partly pulling this knee and this thigh in will make your pelvis tilt anyway, and then a good straightening out the leg. But I'm also using those muscles we just used to help keep that lower back pushing into the mat. So just take 3 or 4 of those, see if you can hold that up there. Once this is all sorted out and nice and strong, it means I can concentrate more on that upper body and pulling this leg in a little bit as well. Good. So we're going to try and continue to use that movement for our abdominal cycling. So hands are at the back of the head now. Take your pelvic tilt. In fact, come up with your, bring both knees in and come up with your head and shoulders. So I've created a sort of C curve with my spine, trying to keep those elbows forwards, head is nice and heavy in the hands. Now we're going to challenge that ability to stay still by cycling these legs. So this is strong, this is hard to do. I'm remaining in that pelvic tilt because I've got the stamina there. If you found that you're here and then you're extending that long lower leg and it all feels uncomfortable, you haven't got the stamina to do this, so take it back a step. You could take a couple of differences. You could take the legs up higher, absolutely keep your circles smaller. You could lower the head and shoulders down, take the legs even higher still, but try and maintain that pelvic tilt here. If you're here and if you're all feeling nice and strong, stay there, and then let's reverse, pushing through the heels as they stretch out. Keeping those elbows in nice and tight. And if you wanted to, you could, lost my cycling movement. So that's another part of this that makes it a little bit harder. I'm taking opposite elbow to knee. I've released my fingertips a little bit. Adding a little oblique movement in there and relaxing and lowering. That was just for the hardcore among you who wanted to have had a little bit of extra on those abdominals today. Well done. Good. We are going to lie on our side and coming here. No, I'm going to go this way first. So lying on my side, we're going to take both legs up, so in a really nice straight line, as if you were standing. Lifting both legs up, try and keep those insteps parallel, and holding them here. We're going to turn the legs out in the hip socket. Just try this first of all. So hips are stacked, shoulders are stacked, turning the legs out, both together, and then coming back to parallel. Turning them out and parallel. My feet are pointed, softly pointed all the way through. So turning the whole leg out in the hip socket. They should turn out evenly, hopefully. Then from here, we're going to draw that top knee in parallel. My big toe is touching the underneath leg. I'm then going to turn that leg out, so the knee comes up to the ceiling. I'm also turning my underneath straight leg out. Coming back to parallel and straightening, holding both legs up. Top leg is level with the hips all the way through. Trying not to have too much pressure on this ear. So parallel, you need your hand here, otherwise you're going to fall forwards. Keep those hips stacked. Turning out, both legs if you can. Parallel and straighten. And again. Whoopsie, I don't know if you heard that. My hip always clicks on this one and clunks on this one, so I want to really try and lift out of my hips. No, it still goes. 2 more. Really quite last one, we're going to hold the leg up, turned out, hold both legs turned out, and take 3 arm waves. So your goal now is to keep your hips stacked, go past the inside of that knee, take that arm up, level with the other arm, and then up to the ceiling, just back to touch the floor, and again, holding everything there, holding everything in place, hold that turn out. One more if you can. Waist is lifted away from the floor, and drop down, and extend, and lower. Wonderful. All on the other side. So if this position, this straight leg position, is uncomfortable on your hip, and I maybe should have said this on the other side, you can just do this exercise with the underneath leg bent and take it out of the equation. But if you can, try and work with both legs off. So set your good straight line up as if you were standing in beautiful tall posture. Legs are parallel. Turn them both out equally and back to parallel. So you have no choice here. That might not go very far. The leg in the hip socket. This really is your natural turnout, combined with the fact of whether you have any control over those muscles. So let's stay in parallel. Keep this hand on the floor for balance. Keep the hips stacked. Draw that knee in. Then turning both legs out. Think of pushing the heels forwards. Back to parallel and straighten. And again. Absolutely no curly feet on this one. There's a curly foot. Yeah. And then parallel and straighten. And again. Oopsie, sorry, parallel. I was thinking about this hand. There's quite a lot of pressure through that hand. I'm trying not to let it happen. It's partly because of the weight of this leg, the position of this leg here. Trying to keep my hips still. 2 more. Get that big toe touching that underneath knee. No resting your foot either on this leg. It's another version of this I see is this here. No, pointed foot. Let's do one more on this side. Hold that knee up, holding everything here. Lengthen this head, the head away. Brush your fingertips on the inside of that knee and lengthen. Imagine this arm is tracing a line up towards the ceiling. Watch that you haven't gone into a banana. As seen from above. This is strong. This is my harder side for balancing on this one. Keep that shoulder down here. And finishing it off. Parallel, extend and relax. Brilliant. Okay. Finishing off. We're going to line our tummies, but we're going to take this arm movement first of all, when just to get your head around the movement on the floor. So we're going to slide, so kneeling here if you can, if that's not available to you, kneel, or maybe sit cross-legged, but just make sure you're nice and even. So you're going to wipe the backs of your hands up the side seam of your top of your body. When you get your hands to sort of your armpits, really focus on drawing the shoulder blades down in the opposite direction. And then you're going to take your hands up to the ceiling. Little fingers facing forwards or palms facing each other. When we're lying on our tummy, we're going to take a back extension here. Then you're going to lower from your back extension, face the palms forwards, open them out and come into a really good, strong capital E. I've just looked at my elbows actually. My elbows were back a little bit, trying to push my elbows forwards. And my arms are really at the sides of my body. Then I'm going to draw those elbows into my sides and I can really feel the muscles around my shoulder blades engaging into a W and then relax and start again. So wipe the backs of the hands up. When you're here, strongly draw those shoulder blades down. It's like you're putting your shoulder blades into gear. Brush past your ears, straight up. This is going to be really nice straight arms when we take that back extension. thumbs are facing behind you. Turn your palms to face forwards. Open the arms out into a capital E. Be accurate with this capital E. So not up here, not out there. A good strong 290 degrees. Push those elbows forwards. When you're lying on your tummy, I want your elbows to be in contact with the floor if you can. And then bring your elbows in. Hands are out to the side and then relax. Okay, here we go. So, we have got lying down on your tummy. Remember, whenever you lie down, you've come from a back extension, so connect that rib cage down, lift your hips up, wiggle the legs out a little bit. Let's have the legs hip width apart, slightly turned out or parallel if you would like. So tip of the nose hovering off the mat, arms down by your side, shoulders quasimodo and rounded. Lift the back of your head and neck enough, just a tiny bit, so that it's in line with the rest of your spine. So this, your head isn't forward here, it's lifted. It's in your plumb line, correct position. And you're just going to lift those shoulder tips a little bit. Here we go. So wipe the backs of your hands along the inside of seam of your body. Get your hands to your armpits. Feel that you're drawing those shoulder blades down. Continue. I'm still wiping my hands on the floor, actually, on the mat. Reach those arms forwards. Shoulders are in gear. Thumbs are up to the ceiling. Arms are nice and straight. I've lifted my back a little bit more. So I'm on my bottom 3 or 4 ribs as I brought those arms through. I'm going to keep my arms straight. I'm going to lift my back. This is actually quite easy to do if you keep those arms really straight and push down through the floor. And then lower. Keep that head hovering off, and still my bottom ribs. Turn your palms to face down. Open out your arms into that capital E. Pause here. Your elbows and your hands should be on the floor. Check that you're just pushing that pubic bone into the mat a little bit. Legs are relaxed-ish. Now from here, draw those elbows into your sides. Keep the elbows on the floor. This is strong work. Strong work around the shoulder blades. Hold it there a moment and then just let the arms extend, lower the back, come back to completely relaxed. So lifting the head a little bit. Elbows out to the side as you wipe the backs of your hands on the side seam of your torso. Hands to your armpits and then continue to stretch them through. As I stretch them through, I've now lifted my back a little bit more. So hopefully everyone can get to here. Little fingers down, thumbs are up, shoulders really drawn back. You might just want to stay here. You might just want to bend those elbows a little bit and just take a small back extension from there, just coming onto those elbows with your palms down. If you can, keep those arms really nice and straight. I'm actively pushing down, I'm lifting up, I'm bringing my whole mat with me, but it feels quite nice. I've activated buttocks to support the lower back. I'm pushing my pubic bone into the mat. Then I'm lengthening out, palms are down, open out into a capital E, elbows down, not up here, elbows touching. Bring the elbows into your side for that W and round by your sides and have a little collapse and a relax. We will be revisiting that one because I really like that whole combination. So coming up onto all fours, let's take a good old spine circle. Both directions. Curling those toes under. I'm feeling the need to come into a deep squat, have a little bit of a roll from side to side. You might just want to bend those toes over. You might want to come up into a downward dog and pad through the feet. That also feels quite nice. Great job. Walk the hands back to the feet. Insteps are parallel, legs are quite wide, knees are soft. I'm hanging, I'm nodding my head, I'm shaking my head, and then I'm going to roll up, shaking those arms as I roll up. Push that pubic bone forwards, unravel all the way up to the top. And let's finish off. Big, huge, deep breath up to the ceiling, palms together, elbows down, lower those hands. As you lower, lift internally. Thank you so much for joining me.